Hey everyone, welcome to the Challenge Opportunity podcast. I'm Chris Lawson. As usual, I'm joined with Jordan Woolf. Jordan, we're already in episode number 2 already.
I can't believe it. What a journey. Feels like
I
we just
know.
started this literally today. Maybe it was tomorrow. Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know how time works.
Well, I think what's crazy about this whole podcast experience so far is that you invest so much time, effort, money, thought power, into all your tech and your process, and then you go to record and your podcasting software dies, or you can't get your camera battery to last longer than 4 minutes. Just doesn't seem to always work the way that you want it to work.
Just got to dive in the deep end, as they say, for most things.
That's exactly it. Well, as agency owners, we're always speaking to clients every single day, trying to challenge our agency to think outside the box. I was thinking this morning, after having probably about 3 or 4 different calls with different businesses that are trying to figure out their marketing mix for 2023. There have been so many changes in analytics, in algorithms. Networks are being purchased by billionaires. I mean, it's kind of, the whole world is kind of changing as we head into 2023. And I started thinking about not only the clients I was speaking about talking to today, but also some of our larger clients that we started working with even a couple years ago, where they were implementing social media strategies and had no bloody clue as to how to actually get results. But even with that, they had no idea how to measure. They literally thought that just creating posts would get results, and frankly, they would never tie them into their business objectives at all. I know at Atrium we've called those metrics Vanity Metrics. Trying to get away from these KPIs and metrics like, I don't know, impressions that may or may not have any impact in their business development or in their actual revenue. How have you found that on the strategy side? Like, have you actually found the clients to dive deeper into that, or are they still stuck on Vanity Metrics?
I mean, as marketers, we're professionals in the game of marketing, but that doesn't really mean much. Month to month, that can mean a different thing. And it's really easy to get lost in the woods about, you hear things like you need traffic, you need clicks, you need likes, you need et cetera, et cetera. But unless you're matching that to the business model's objectives, you're kind of just picking some random thing that people are talking about in the moment. And that's pretty common. I mean, it's not something that you can really, at the base, expect people not to do ever. We all fall into it. We all, find these little excuses to be a little lazy about why we're doing the things that we're doing. But if you really take the time to think about it, a lot of the time, a metric to get followers on the face value of followers doesn't make a lot of sense.
Oh, totally. And it's, I even think this topic of vanity metrics is one of those things that people aren't talking about enough. I think everybody that we talk to every single day knows enough about social media, but the reality is they don't really know how to operate it for a business. What would, at least for me, I think of followership. I think that is such a useless KPI for most businesses. Like, when you're diving deep into the marketing strategy side, and you're actually dealing with tying the objectives that these operations managers or marketing coordinators are trying to dive into. Like, what are you finding you're looking at the most?
Well, it's not so much that followers are like a bad word or anything like that. I don't want to, when we're talking with clients or when I'm working on one of our clients' projects, followers might be the legitimate thing you're getting in the end. But unless you know the steps that led up to that and why you need that impacting the business, you're kind of just setting yourself up for a lot of activity, but not necessarily a lot of benefit for the business. As an agency, that's really important because we got to get results. So if we're not, hitting the bottom line at some point, we get, canned as a business, or any agency would. But, followers is not the wrong thing if you think about the audience engagement. You want an engaged audience and you want more of them to be following you. But really, in that sentence, engagement is the thing you're really trying to influence first and make sure is in place so that you can kind of build from there and build from a good foundation. So we spend more time in strategy really thinking about who is the audience, where are they, how do we really engage with them, and then they will become followers. They will become the thing that grows the size of the followership, or that little number that we all like to look at the corner of our profiles.
Well, it's kind of funny for anybody who doesn't really know how we operate at Atrium, at least between the Chris and Jordan part of the business. I'm in charge of initial strategies. So my job is literally to talk to people who are coming in saying, hey, I want leads. And then they'll say things like, run my social media. I want 150 posts per week. The reality is that my job is to help, take their expectation of ROI and actually place it into a program that's going to get results for them, which means, analyzing data and looking at scope and things like that. But then what happens is that those clients will, become people that we work with every single day. And then Jordan's got to deal with them. Do you find the learning curve, though? I know the learning curve is so steep for some of them when I'm initially talking to them, but do you find the learning curve is just quick once they get on your side of the fence, or do you find it's constant?
Well, I mean, in our situation, thankfully, we have a Chris yourself doing the kind of hard break at the front end before I usually talk to them. So they've kind of gone through the ringer a little bit and going like, oh, I need social media. Why? Why do you need social media? Oh, I need followers. Why? Why do you need followers? And we can really get to the core of that. By the time they're talking with me, that's usually not where their mind's at, thankfully. But I mean, as a podcast listener or somebody watching what we're talking about here today, if you're a marketing professional or you're a business owner, it really just takes one moment to kind of check yourself on the Kool-Aid that you might be drinking in the moment and going, well, I just was on my LinkedIn feed and I saw social people talking about followership. I'm all jazzed up about it, but why? Take a moment, really step back and go like, well, where does that fit in your business model? And then how does it get to the bottom line? Is that going to bring more sales? Is that going to bring more brand recognition? Is it going to help you in thought leadership? Those are the things that are much more the point you should be thinking about when you're developing a strategy, as well as when you're talking with an agency or you're building a team.
Well, I think it's also, in addition to what you're saying, it's about being realistic. We were talking to a business, Mitch, part of our team here. We were talking to this individual who, we've worked in the jewelry industry here at Atrium for, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, with some pretty large players. And this gentleman, has a storefront. He's been, in the jewelry industry for 15, 20 years, but a brick and mortar business. And as we were talking to him, he was talking about all these different things he wanted to do. He wanted us to help him with the social. He wanted to focus on organic search, and he wanted to focus on, a variety of ads. And frankly, he didn't know how any of that worked. He just heard these words. But where the unrealistic part came in was his expectation of what he needed to invest or what that minimum level of entry was. And I was helping him to understand that, companies like a People's, they're known for spending a ridiculous amount of money, possibly 7 figures a year on their marketing. And he came in thinking he could spend $500,000 on ads or the PPC ads, and it was going to make a massive impact on his business. You have to be realistic with understanding the algorithms, how those individual platforms are going to work. Can you reach your audience with that network? And then more than anything, your budgets, if you don't have enough budget, frankly, it's not going to get you past 8:30 in the morning because it's going to be gobbled up,
Yeah, and I know we've gone kind of from social followership, which is more organic most of the time, to now talking a little bit about advertising. But the same logic goes. There's a lot of vanity metrics in advertising as well. Like, having people visit your website as traffic with ads is very easy to do. Getting people to visit a site with a compelling ad can be huge, thousands or tens of thousands of visits to a site. But if you didn't have the right audience, you didn't have the right motivation as to why they were there, the landing page is not going to convert. It's not going to make the sale. It's not going to become a lead. It's not going to do the thing that the business model needs. A lot of our clients are across a variety of different industries, so we get a little bit more exposure about the different situations. But at the bottom line, whether you're selling e-commerce or whether you're B2B industrial trying to find that next big job that you need to send your sales rep to, shake some hands, you have to make a connection with a real person that's going to have an objective that aligns with their business and with your business, or their personal life. It's a product or service and your business. And that's where breaking yourself of this habit of viewing the world through these vanity metrics is something that we really strive to put that out there in the universe, I guess, at this point.
Well, all that being said, these vanity metrics need to be tied to business objectives, which is a lot of what we do when we're doing our initial strategies, because we want to make sure that from day one, clients aren't measuring us as an agency for the wrong thing. But when they come into speaking to us the very first time and they say things like, hey, I need some leads, and frankly, not just leads, but consistent leads so that I can start, I don't know, leaning on my marketing mix to actually make decisions for my business. They often will come in expecting a platform, a program, a certain methodology to accomplish something that it's not really intended to do. And depending if you're, direct to consumer, B2B, whatever, that's going to be very different. But the question that I have for you, Jordan, is, being honest, like can social media as a platform, it doesn't matter if it's TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn, can it be a lead generator?
Definitely. You're basically going to somebody's, I guess, more personal side when you're going to social media. That's a place where they are giving a piece of themselves, whether that's LinkedIn, where it's more professional piece, or it's Facebook, where it may be a little bit more family and friends and interests. But once you have an idea of where that overlap of that Venn diagram between your business and their life, or their business and your business is, the impact to your business is quite obvious at that point. Marketing is a way to make sure that that's visible, that that's making that connection, that it doesn't just happen on its own. You do have to kind of open conversations and get people in the same place that have a like needs or a like interests. And that's where social media plays a huge role. So, sometimes that's thought leadership that plays a big part of people's marketing mix, or different businesses we work with. Sometimes that's going to be more direct to sales, but it's a little softer than, say, advertising, where you might more often than not trying to be making the sale, or keep somebody in that sales cycle process.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking, earlier today, just with some of the team, like a lot of people, frankly, a lot of agencies have a hard time differentiating organic social and paid. Like it's like, yeah, sure, you can boost some posts, increase some exposure, get some more brand awareness, get, maybe some more followership. It's a great way to, expand that sphere of influence, we call it. But, at the end of the day, running Facebook ads is more of an online advertising, strategy than it is a social strategy. But I think the great part about, social organically versus social through a paid online advertising, perspective, is you can start hitting your, ideal audience through key identifiers at very specific parts or points within the buyer's journey. So, like, for example, if you're trying to drum up some awareness and start getting, I don't know, people who don't necessarily know about your organization, or frankly, if they even know that the need, or that they have a need for a problem that they're facing, you can drum up and create market through some Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads. But what'll end up happening is the organic side of it will come through more on the consideration side of the buyer's journey, because they're now trying to go, okay, I've came through your ad, I know who you are, I'm checking out your site, but let's learn more. How legit is this organization? I'd like to see some case studies or some more information on their product, or whatever the case might be. I think placement in the journey is a very important discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, social media can be a very large part or a very small part, but at some point or another, we're all on 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 social media networks these days. So understanding where we are in the journey and which ones are relevant at which point is going to be a huge part of whether that's part of your funnel, part of something that you do regularly, or if that's just part of a campaign that you're doing that's a unique situation that you're trying to apply for your business, or something you're trying to do, like a product launch, or like you said, building a new market can be an important way of using that as a tool.
Well, the truth is too, is that, if you're selling a product that's more, I don't know, more relevant to the average Joe, maybe you're selling shoes, or, makeup or natural health products, or whatever the case might be, algorithms and, policies of platforms aside, it's a lot easier to justify using social media as a lead generator, or as a method to have conversions come on your site, being e-commerce or whatever. But it's those B2B, or those more industrial, manufacturing, millwork type companies that I think have a real hard time understanding how you can actually utilize those platforms as a lead generator, versus how you utilize those platforms to help nurture your audience, or create a, frankly, improve your attrition and retention rates and all that kind of stuff throughout the year, especially for those markets where there's seasonality.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean B2B businesses, like you mentioned, or industrial, even if it's a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
They're going to have a situation where they want to be salesy all the time, but depending on the social network, that's not really what you're supposed to do there. You want to be genuine. You want to find an overlap that may not be, I want you to be my customer, or here's my product, or here's my service,
Yeah.
and kind of beating them over the head. It might just be, we're interested in these things, so are you. We have an overlap in the goal that we have as a mission or as a business, and you might identify with that in that environment. So, looking at going to where they are, not where you want them to be, is a critical understanding on anything we do with social media, organic or paid.
Yeah. Well, especially when we live in a world where nobody wants to necessarily hang their hat on your brand without understanding what you stand for. How do you stand with the environment or a very specific cause, or especially with indigenous groups, how that stands with environmental and oil and gas or whatever the case might be. So, social has a big part to play in corporate culture. If you're trying to, let's be honest, find the best employees within your industry, within your geographical area, those individuals are not going to leave a job right now that is paying them well in a world of uncertainty as we head into 2023, just because maybe you pay another 5-10% more. They want to see that you have an organization that can help nurture their growth. Maybe they can climb the ladder. Maybe it's going to help them start their own thing in the future. I guess where I'm going with that is I don't think social media is limited to one or two objectives for an organization. I think it can do a lot more, but it's going to come back to, number one, your operational goals. Number two, being realistic on with what platform and how you can actually achieve that. And then the third part is proper measurement. Back to what we originally talked about with these vanity metrics. If you're trying to make yourself be perceived as the best employer in, I don't know, West, a certain state, or central, Manitoba, or whatever the case might be, at the end of the day, there's ways that you can get that messaging out there.
Yeah, in a way, you've said what we have internally is a lot of the lingo we use is there's three different things to this. There's the strategy, there's the tactic, and then there's the outcome. And each of them need to be considered. But I mean, you could probably tell some stories about people coming in with one of those things where that's their starting point, and they're like, I want to do TikTok, videos. Great, that's a good tactic. But unless I know what the strategy is or what the outcome you're trying to do is, it's kind of meaningless. Same thing, you come in as like, I want followers. We talked about that earlier. That's an outcome. Or the strategy is I want to use social media. Yeah. Great, but what tactics and what outcomes are we looking for? That's always the trick.
No, you're right. And I think the other part of it too that no one really talks about is internal capacity. TikTok's a great example. You could even add YouTube or even parts of Instagram in there with the production of video content. More content is not necessarily the answer. Beating people over the head with more content is not really going to solve a problem. Quality a lot of the time, and making sure you're hitting people with quality at the right time, is going to make the impact. When you're dealing with TikTok, a lot of that content is less corporate, a lot more personal. There's a lot of trends, a lot of silly things that happen on there. It may or may not be right for your business, but at the end of the day, like we've worked with events management companies and speedways and stuff like that, where TikTok is brilliant. But at the end of the day, that internal capacity to be able to produce video, get your team out there to shoot races or to get content going, is often daunting when you're just running around trying to operate the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've covered quite a bit in a short period of time, going from, talking about vanity metrics to the benefits and really outcomes that, people are using social media for to lead, build leads or to generate business or make sales. To kind of round this into something that's going to turn into value out of people listening today, I think covering the ways you break down problems and look at just, you come in with one starting point. Everybody does. They're coming with their bias. They're coming with whatever they heard last or that thing that got them energized and excited about it in the first place. Great. But now it's a matter of like, where does that connect the dots to your business? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's 2 or 3 steps between the business and that idea. And spending some time to just kind of lay that out on a piece of paper or in a discussion like we're doing now with a colleague can be a great way to make sure that you're coming into those ideas a little bit more rounded, understanding their value, and then being able to decide,
Yeah.
specific tactics you're going to use to achieve them.
Well, and I think that also works whether you're a business, a non-for-profit. Maybe your topic there is, trying to get more donors, or trying to get more volunteers, or just an awareness about something, or a municipality. Like it really doesn't matter what you're doing, what your cause is. I think relevancy is key, and being realistic, and on top of that, measuring everything you do so that you can pivot from the data.
Exactly. All right, so we've made it through the first part of the podcast, and now we've got some guests.
Woo.
So our first guest today is actually going to be a good partner of ours. So we met, quite a number of years back, but I met him way, way back. Parneet Dilwari is actually an agency owner like ourselves, and has a lot of experience working in similar and overlapping areas, a lot of web design, a lot of performance-based and growth-based businesses working with him to work on everything from social media to advertising and beyond. So a lot of overlaps in knowledge, and a great guy to hang out with and chat with. Also a good middle school student to be sitting next to back in the day. So I'll be introducing.
You were cheating off of me.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I can't remember. It's a long time ago. So yeah, I think what we'll be doing in today's chat is to maybe rehash some ground of where we, started our professional careers overlapping was really at a time where we were coming to some similar conclusions about how the marketing world had evolved, some of the advantages and pitfalls that we all fall into as agency owners, as marketers, and really the question that I was running through my brain when we, connected professionally was, are marketers really doing this wrong? Are we, looking at the objectives in the wrong way in some fundamental level? And I know you and I have had lots of chats about that. To me at the time, the cracks were really showing everywhere as far as how marketing was approached. I guess this going back 6 years ago or so, you had a lot of creative agencies working with clients, and you'd get this returning cycle of clients that were really excited. They'd work with a creative team. That creative team is really talented. They know what they're doing. They're having a lot of fun at the meantime as well. They come up with an excellent campaign. It launches. You get 1 million views, great followerships, achieves all the goals, and everyone's popping champagne, and it's a great day. But the problem then happens the next day when that client talks to the agency and says, "Great, I love what you guys did. Do it again." And that's where the cracks really started showing. As an agency, you're all scrambling. You're going, "Yeah, no problem. We'll get it done." And you get to work, and maybe it doesn't quite turn out the same way. Maybe it doesn't hit all the same boxes. Maybe it performs a little bit. But inevitably, you repeat that cycle long enough, you're going to end up in a situation where you can't repeat that success. And that has resulted in some widespread things in the marketing industry where agency attrition is huge. If you had applied that attrition rate to most any other service business, you'd find it pretty miserable. And that was something I was struggling with as an agency owner myself. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a failed model at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're losing 50% of your business every single year, like you're never in the position where you're making dividends. You're never in the position where you can scale your business or trust that the numbers coming in. We talk about attrition a lot of the time when it comes to clients. What about staffing? You start losing your staff, which hurts the product. It hurts the service you're providing. And frankly, the cost associated with going through agency after agency, the baggage that you bring along with you, the not just the baggage, but the opportunity cost that's gone, the amount of money you've spent in ads or whatever you're trying to do. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And I don't think it's actually a topic that people talk about enough, frankly.
No, definitely not. And frankly, the attrition rate, if we historically look at our industry, if that existed in other companies, heads would be rolling. and it wouldn't be acceptable in our
100%.
clients and in our clients' companies at all.
And that's for some huge agencies, like big banner AAA agencies that have attrition rates that in any other environment would be horrible.
Oh,
So, I mean, you kind of look at that situation, you take a step back and you go like, what are we even doing here? I mean, we're fairly prideful people to some level. We are in marketing, and that's fun and all, and it's a great industry to be in, and thanks for that. But at the bottom line, we want to do things that impact people positively. We want to do things that make a difference and that actually get the results that we were hoping for. And if you
yeah,
have clients that are basically voting with their money at the end of the day and moving agency to agency to agency, and then you talk to those businesses that have gone agency to agency and they're angry at everybody because none of them have been able to get what they want, then we must be doing something wrong as an industry. We've got to be looking at the wrong problem or trying to solve the wrong problem. That's where
I think, yeah, I mean, sorry to cut you off there, but I think what our industry tends to do is to educate the client and say, hey, this is the metric you should be looking at, when the client is looking at something completely different. So, if we're looking at like a top of funnel conversion rate and the client is looking at the bottom of funnel conversion rate, and they're comparing an agency's performance to the bottom of the funnel, we could be out to lunch and get fired the next day because we haven't delivered. And I think that's, as marketers, we fail to ask clients what they are actually measuring our success on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, you're right, and we were actually just talking about this earlier, the topic of vanity metrics and things like that. But really, it's about honing in on the KPIs, the things that really matter in those campaigns that are legitimately anchored in the objectives of the organization. Right? These are
Yeah.
now operational discussions more than they are marketing discussions. And I don't want to say all agencies are like this, because I know there's a lot of amazing agencies out there, but a lot of your smaller
totally.
agencies specifically, they don't dive deep enough into the business modeling with those companies. They'll jump into the creative. They'll jump into
Yeah.
the plop fizz. I had a shower this morning and had this epiphany of some campaign we can run, and it's not anchored in data. It's not anchored in human behavioral patterns. And it's those sexy things that marketers do, frankly, that the average Joe running a business or whatever gets excited about because it seems fresh and new. But it's like Jordan just said, it's extremely hard to replicate the success that comes from those things.
Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Like creativity, like there's nothing against a creative agency.
No, not at all.
We don't necessarily operate a creative agency ourselves, but creativity is part of what we do. It is part of the process, and good creative work will deliver better results, period. However, creativity in itself does not necessarily give you what the business needs, which is consistency. If I, as a business owner who has to budget things and hire people and make investments and make sure that the places I'm placing these bets are going to get a return, I can't rely on an agency that may get amazing thing one month and nothing another month. That doesn't allow me to do what I need to do to operate a business, to make the money that we need to make, or to grow, or to achieve some of the missions that we have if it's a more global focused business. Those types of situations of building consistency using creativity is going to be much more successful if you're building off of a fundamental foundation first.
Oh, totally.
And then having that epiphany and launching it out of the park with some brilliant creative idea, but it was built on a fundamental first. And I think we skip that as agencies a lot of the time.
We do, and I think one of the important questions to ask any potential client is what they're hoping for us to achieve. Are they looking for the number of leads that we're getting? Are they looking at how much they're selling at the end of the day? Because I know some of the enterprise clients that we work with, they're not concerned about the top end leads, how many are coming in the door, but they're more concerned about how much product are they selling. And if that's the case, we have to get them the highest quality lead at the top of the funnel so it converts into a sale at the end of the day. So we're not wasting their money on ad spend, and we're not wasting our time being creative, because that's what we all enjoy doing. If we want to be creative, we have to understand what we're going to deliver to that client.
Well, it's funny that you say we should be asking clients what they're looking for. I feel like when I'm talking to people on the initial strategy side of it, it's actually the other way around. They're telling me what they want. The problem is, and we've learned this, and Jordan, you know where I'm going with this because we talk about this like every single day with every client. What they tell us is not actually what they want. They have no idea.
Yeah.
They don't know when they say, "Hey, we need leads, I need geographical growth, I need more conversions on my website, I need to rank better, for, I'm not number 1 on Google." For what term? Like your website should be ranking for thousands of terms in your industry. Like, what do you mean oh, I am number 1 on Google? For what? But these ideas that, and as marketing coordinators, CMOs, it's business development people, it's operational staff, general managers, it's C-levels, it's everybody. I want leads, I want to grow, I want to hit a certain revenue target. The truth is, when we hit it, they think that's where it ends. It's the consistency factor that helps you scale your business, decide what you're going to do with your staffing, your facilities, let alone marketing budgets. Let's be honest, what are they really doing? They want to talk about dividends. Can I actually go and pull out X amount of money at the end of the year and feel comfortable that going into Q1 of next year, more money's coming back in the bank account? The consistency factor is everything.
It's not as sexy when you realize that the thing you do as a marketer is drive consistency, but that is really what's going to hold you accountable to your job if you're a marketing manager or director or coordinator or VP, and the CEO walks down the hall and asks for these things. You still got to be on that page or you're going to lose your job. If it's an agency, that's where that attrition rate comes from. If you deliver consistent results for a client, they will never leave you, period. And that, I think, is the North Star. That's the viewpoint that, back then when we had our discussions, that's what, my mind, the light bulb went on and said, oh, we're consistency people. That's what we have to do. That is the thing we need to be obsessing about day in and day out. Then it comes down to tactics and creativity and things you apply on top.
Oh, big time. And, I like to work with clients that, stick around for years and years. It's, as an agency, it's harder to basically bring on the masses and try to deliver success for every single person. But, if you look at the clients that you are bringing success to and you bring consistent results, they're not going to leave you because you're giving them exactly what they want and at the price that they want it at.
Years ago, my mom was a marketing coordinator for a monster company, and she built these relationships with different vendors, one of which was here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, just a local print shop, a small print shop. I almost want to give them a shout out just because they're that great, but the experience that she had caused her, when I needed to start doing print work, to go to them. And I remember calling this individual and said, "Hey, I'm the son of yada yada, my mom." And he went, "Oh my gosh, how is she? How are you to do?" And there was this personal relationship. As agencies, those personal, relationships do matter, but it is not what's going to sustain the relationship long term. As I continued to work with this organization or this company, they banged out print work at such a high level, and frankly, it was a little, pricey. That's okay, because they did it at like the best quality and the fastest anyone would have done it in the industry, which is what we all want, right? But I learned something. In addition to like this consistency model, trying to make sure we're getting consistent results for clients, they were a delight to work with. Every time I called back, he knew who I was. He gave me the best service. And I know at Atrium, I always tell the staff this all the time. If you are able to get consistent results for your clients and also be extremely enjoyable to work with, your client will never leave. And like Parneet, if people don't know Parneet very well, there's two things I always tell people about Parneet. He's a bear. He's the most cuddly, nicest guy in the world. Every client raves about Parneet. Every staff does. Everybody loves Parneet. He's one of the most honest, go-lucky, charming people, quite attractive. But the reality is he always provides value with all that charm. The second thing I tell people is he's a die-hard Taylor Swift fan. He is the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world. I was going to bring up some quotes or sing a song or something, but So I think number one, like the consistency factor is everything. I think, Jordan, you're absolutely right. I think marketers are viewing the objective wrong. I think that if we were to flip that and just provide a nice friendly face and not provide the consistency, your attrition is shot. Absolutely.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. No, I know. Kind of to change gears here a little bit. I introduced you, Parneet, earlier as being an agency owner. Acceleration Driven is the agency that you run, and you've got a variety of different services you're hitting, but you're also working with a variety of different scales of businesses, just like we do. So you kind of get a pretty good lay of the landscape that's out there. Have you noticed a change as we start to plan into 2023 in attitudes or elements?
Yeah, so especially going into 2023, there's really two really attitudes I would say that I'm seeing. One, our smaller clients are worried about what 2023 is going to bring, but they're also excited about it. And on the flip side, the enterprise clients are full steam ahead. They're forecasting record growth for next year, so they're bringing on extra staff. At the same time, they're saying, "Hey, can we bump up the lead volume from what we're doing to can you 10x it?" Like they're excited for the growth that 2023 is going to begin or bring, and they're wanting to diversify where they're showing up online. So how they're marketing, the services that they're marketing, and also what channels they're marketing on. So I think while there is a hint of worry in almost every client's eyes as to what next year is going to bring, there's also a huge wave of optimism going into the economy coming back. Businesses a lot of businesses are seeing record growth. You look at the airline industry, and they're having some of the best times. We do a lot of work for insurance clients, and they're having record years, and looking at that, basically a growth that they're forecasting for next year. So, consistency is going to be important, and also making sure that their marketing mix is right for 2023 is also going to be very important.
Yeah, I imagine you'd be excused to think, if you spend all your time on Twitter or watching the news, that the world's about to end tomorrow, but that's a weird position that we are in the agency world. We get to work with more types of businesses at a variety of different scales, at least for our agencies. That gives you a certain perspective on things of where, you can see some hints of, okay, the economy's impacting some people, but then other people are jumping right in both feet. From crisis comes a lot of opportunity as well. That's another perspective.
Well, I think it's
a big
mentality.
time. Sorry, what were you going to say, Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's mentality. And I don't think that it's any different any other year. Don't get me wrong. We've been in a weird economy that's been hard to predict, whether it be, all your staff wanting to go remote, or, the health system in your state or province is making the correct or wrong decisions. And, it's just been wonky for 3 years, maybe 4 years for some industries. But the reality is I think there's some consistency in that there's two groups. There's those people that are growth focused. They're not going to just sit there, waiting around, holding their chips close to their chest, just waiting to, wait the storm out, hopefully cross their fingers, not lose market share. I mean, that's the second group. That first group is looking at 2023, and they're not just teeing up their marketing mix right now. It's established, right? And they're taking that Christmas break to prime everything. And I think it's that difference of being proactive as opposed to being reactive. And I think that, back to what we're talking about with the consistency factor, I think if you have that established in your market, or in your marketing, and in your business model, you never really have to be as radically reactive as these things come up.
Oh, big time. I completely agree with you on that, Chris.
Yeah. We talk to clients, Parneet, you're absolutely right about how, the larger companies are kind of ramping up.
Yeah.
I always tell people this, the thing I love about my job the most, talking to, Atrium doesn't have a niche. And it's so weird to say that, because most agencies hone in on a certain segment of, an industry or whatever. We don't have a niche. And so I talk to businesses in all these industries across North America, and I kind of have the ability to kind of get some insight across the board. And, I will say this time in 2022 versus this time in 2021 or in 20, there is way more aggression. Maybe aggression is the wrong word, but they're attacking the market. They're not sitting back, and they're looking at data, and they're trying to ask the right questions for the first time because they don't want to be left behind like they were in previous years.
Oh, big time. And, this week has been a big planning week with some of our enterprise clients. And in the same sentence where we're going to hear that we can't keep up with the lead volume, I'm also hearing in the exact same sentence that we need more leads and we want to grow and we want to take these steps to get the business even more revenue. So it's a great time for that growth, and I think a lot of industries are going to see phenomenal growth going into 2023 and beyond. We've kind of crossed that the slowdown that we saw with the economy stopping due to the pandemic, and now it's like the Roaring '20s. It's going to be 2023. I think is going to be a record year for a lot of industries, and people really shouldn't be looking at it with doom and gloom, but what opportunities exist for their particular business to grow.
Well, let me ask both of you guys this, because it's something that we talk about with our team here all the time. We're talking about recession-proofing your organization, and that's going to be very different geographically for everybody. Different industries are impacted differently. Maybe you're non-for-profit, whatever. But recession-proofing your organization, like, what does that look like? How do you recession-proof? And we could do an entire podcast series on this topic. I get that. But I want to ask the two of you, how do you, as Jordan, as a strategist in an agency, Parneet as a, an agency owner, but also somebody who's a guru in ads, how do you recession-proof an organization, especially when it's not your organization, you're the agency that's helping them do that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that topic.
Like you said, this is a pretty deep topic,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to cover everything. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a hot take here. So, I've been doing marketing agency work for the last almost 20 years now, just shy of that. So during that time, you see ups and downs. Every 3, 4, 5 years, there's an up and there's a down in different markets and different industries, sometimes across the whole economy. And the thing I do know is what doesn't work. What doesn't work to get you across the finish line when things settle out, or even when things are tough and you're in the middle of it, is doing nothing. That group that you were talking about that just holds their chips, or I call them turtles. They turtle in and they just go into their shell.
Turtles.
And they try to be safe because they're in their shell. Meanwhile, everybody around them that has a clue is eating their lunch. And then they come out later and go what happened to my lunch? Well, everybody ate it while you were in your shell.
Why am I ranking on page 5 now for all my main core services?
Exactly. And it's an unfortunate thing. It's I think the default for a lot of just human behavior is to be a little bit more protective when you're challenged. But in business, man, that's a risk that, probably will not pay out well for you. And so as marketers, being attuned to that, I guess, propensity for people to be a little bit more shy with their investments during these times, it's a bit of psychology game. You got to really talk people through this, but it's in their best interest. Even running an agency ourselves, trying to get yourself to be more aggressive when things are uncertain, it's a little bit weird. I'm working on an article right now called "Can a Business Have an Anxiety Disorder?" The answer is absolutely. Absolutely it can. So, while there are many ways forward to make the most of a situation like this, being, turtling or, holding your chips to yourself and just hoping for the best to weather the storm, probably not going to work out for you.
Well, the other part to that too is don't be a deer in the headlights, where you're just standing there knowing that you should be doing something and staring at the problem and not asking anybody any questions. This isn't a plug for us by any means, but go to people you trust, go to agency owners, go talk to other executives, go ask people, get out there, don't stand there and just look at your problem and not do anything just because you've never ever dabbled in marketing ever, or the market has shifted and you're just inexperienced. Like we've never lived in a day and age where we've had more information and solutions at our fingertips, yet people don't look for it.
And look for people that contradict your assumption, right? So if you're the kind of person that gets in that mindset of like, no, I'm just going to weather this storm, I'm going to rough it out, find people that are doing the opposite and get curious. Why are you doing that? Why are you investing in your marketing? Why are you hiring people in a recession? And they may give you a really unique insight. Don't huddle around other people that have the same idea as you and have a pity party together. Find those opportunities, and maybe they're wrong. Maybe they have some flaw in their view, and maybe they will make a mistake in those investments. But get those conversations started. You only benefit from them.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're actively working on with our clients is to diversify their ads channels. So don't always rely on Facebook, don't always rely on Google. Let's always be testing different platforms, different types of creative, to really expand your digital footprint. The other thing that we've recently been focusing on, and all businesses should focus on this if they have the ability to, is if someone doesn't qualify for your big service, can they qualify for something else? Can we bring that person in on a smaller offer and get revenue in the door to make them a customer? And then down the road, they may buy a bigger product from you, a bigger service from you, regardless of what your hustle is or what you're selling to the end consumer. So we're really looking at that for growth. Sorry.
No, I interrupted you. It's we just issued a checklist kind of thing for 2023 for a lot of clients, and there was a lot of these similar points that we're making on that checklist. But one of the things that as you were talking, I was thinking about is, often what happens when we're dealing with difficult times is those sales pipelines become longer. Yeah. Because your audience is scared, or your audience isn't ready, or and that's different for B2B, B2C. Like we're heading into the end of December. Obviously, like toy makers are blowing it out of the water. But like, what if you're a valve company? What if you're an access mat company? What if you're in any kind of industrial service? Even for us, like we've noticed the sales cycle's a little bit longer. Just being transparent. So how you start recession proofing, or an area that you can recession proof. Start getting into things like us. We're starting at and we're like way deeper into podcasts, deeper into how we look online, deeper into our CRM and our automations, marketing emails. Really what you're trying to do is you're trying to not just protect your client base, but also make sure that you're reaching out and getting a little bit deeper. And so, your growth rates might be a little bit slower than they were at this very time, like maybe the month, the quarter, whatever. But don't just try to grow by putting more, logs on the fire necessarily. Be smarter and tackle areas that maybe you have control in, and just think outside the box slightly. And you'll come up instantly with a list of 4 or 5 things that you can do that often are free.
Yeah, I made my point not to be, it's really going to be really easy for people listening to this be like, well, easy for you to say, Jordan, my clients aren't buying my product, so how am I supposed to invest? Like they're all nervous and they're not doing this. Well, the first step is to realize that you're going to decide to be aggressive and to grow and to lean into these opportunities. The second is you do need to change something sometimes. That means you need to adapt to your customers and where they're at and change the offering. Like Parneet was saying, maybe you have a modified intro product that you need to develop in this environment, or maybe you need to change the way that you're communicating or educating and moving into a longer buying cycle. Those tactics that you need to adjust into are part of just first making the decision to do something, then working through those problems one by one by one, because that's going to make the difference between those clients those customers. Those businesses that are doing those activities are the ones that will succeed. The ones that are not working through those problems are the ones that are going to, wake up out of their turtle shell months later and not have a business to run.
it's going to be uncomfortable when you kind of start breaking out of that shell and start planning on how to improve your business. But you can't be afraid to take risks. And, if you're developing that intro product, go out there and develop that intro product. If you're investing into a new platform to advertise on, take the baby steps. If you're, going to go all in on social, start planning going all in on social. If December is a slow month, take December to do all the planning and then hit the ground running right after the new year. That's, don't waste the opportunity to basically have the time to concentrate on your marketing mix.
Well, and I think what anyone listening to this will come to the conclusion of as well is that a lot of the time the questions around, how to recession-proof your organization is not just in the marketing department, it's operations, it's mentality, it's psychology. I think, a lot of the times you have to just pump the brakes for a second, point, pause, proceed kind of thing, just stop for a second before you make that next move, think a little, ask other people, look at your analytics, pop the hood. A lot of the time the biggest growth doesn't come in monster chunks. It's increasing conversion rates through, data analysis and heat mapping or something like that by 0.5% or 1% here and another 1% there. And oh, by the way, we increased our traffic volume by an extra 2%, which also impacts the amount of people coming through your conversion point. So often it's not taking market by 10s, 15s, or 20%. It's 1% at a time. And over a period of time, those little steps turn into flights or turn into levels in a building, so to speak. Iterative changes add up over time, and I think that starts with mentality, as what you were saying, Jordan.
Excellent.
Big time.
Well, we covered quite a bit today. I mean, we went through consistency. We talked about the economy. We talked about your mom, of all weird things. But
Jordan,
hey,
we're trying to solve the whole world's problems in one podcast. What we're trying to do.
We also talked about how Jordan cheated off of me all during middle school.
And your passion for Taylor Swift.
And my passion for Taylor Swift. I'm still looking for tickets for this concert. Anyone?
Well, talk to Ticketmaster. Maybe the government can give you a good line in. Yeah. So, thanks for being our first guest there, Parneet. It's, always great to get a bit of a different perspective and also to pull us out of our agency world and our particular viewpoint and see things from a different way. So thanks for doing that.
No, thanks for having me.
Delight.
Awesome.